Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to go over the catalog flashback for the Egg Hunt 2008 event on Roblox. So yeah, let's get started. So this is a series where I basically go over a catalog update or event that happened in the past by Roblox as a way of looking back at how Roblox was in the past and a way to just get some nice nostalgia from looking back at things that might have been exciting or fun for us. And since it is around the time of when they would do an Egg Hunt, I'm going to start with the first one, which is Egg Hunt 2008, where we got a few eggs. And it was a pretty fun event, so I'll be going over this one. And basically the way this egg hunt worked was that eggs would spawn in any game at a specific time. So you didn't have to join a specific game, you just could be in your own game, and you were able to get these during the times they spawned. And there were certain requirements to get some of them, like wearing certain hats or doing certain puzzles, so it wasn't all that easy. And this first one right over here was the easiest of the group, the stationary egg of boring. It basically just spawned and it just stayed there. You just had to touch it once it did spawn. So it was pretty simple, it spawned pretty regularly, so you just had to find it and you were able to get it. And the majority of these eggs actually ended up going limited. As you can see, they are selling for around 1,600 this one. These are some of the cheapest limiteds on the catalog currently because they were free event items in the past, so that just makes sense for them to be the cheapest, but they still do look nice and they're a way for you to get an egg that was made by Roblox, but unfortunately it's not through an event. Now next up over here we have Blinking Egg of Relocation. It basically looks like a yellow version of the stationary egg, and to get this one you had to get it before it teleported away, so it just teleported around the map whenever it did spawn. So this one was a bit less common than the other one, but it still was pretty common. As you can see, it also went limited. It does pretty well occasionally, and you can see it has a pretty big jump as all these eggs are over a decade old. Next up over here, we're bouncing Egg of Boing Boing. This one is a pink one. It looks pretty nice, and in order to get this one you had to find it in the game and it would just jump up and down, and you just had to touch it when it went down. So a pretty simple objective once again. This one is pretty expensive now and it's pretty hard to find, so definitely if you have this still from when you originally got it, it's definitely a pretty good profit. Next up over here we have the Kind Egg of Sharing. This was basically like the first teamwork egg, I would say. You had to get 3 people to touch it in order for it to actually become obtainable, so you definitely need some cooperation for this one. It looks pretty nice. It's kind of like a faded pink reddish color, so it looks pretty cool, and it's doing around the same as the others, so definitely a nice one if you're able to get it. Next up is the Puzzling Egg of Enigma. This one is kind of like a black and white checkerboard, kind of like a chess board, and that is because in order to obtain this one you had to beat the egg in a game of chess, and that wasn't the easiest thing to do. Chess is not an easy game, but if you're able to do that, you're able to get this egg. And despite it being one of the rarer ones, it's not doing as well. Maybe because people don't really like how it looks, but maybe eventually it will go higher if you do own it. Next up is the Invisible Egg of Shadow. This one kind of faded in and out when it did spawn in the game, kind of like a ghost, and obviously because of its transparency, which is a pretty rare thing to find on Roblox, it is doing pretty well, over 5,000 price, so this is definitely one of the more expensive ones to get if you do want to get these eggs, but it's still a pretty cool one, definitely a really nice one to have gotten if you're able to get it. Next up is the Golden Egg of Kings. To get this one you had to wear any kind of crowns, so out of the crowns that were on the catalog at the time, which probably wasn't too many, you just had to wear any of them and then touch it and you were able to get it. So you had to own a Roblox item, and I'm not sure if there were any free crowns at that point, but I'm sure there was something cheap enough for people to actually get the egg. It looks pretty nice, kind of looks like the golden wrapping paper they put around chocolate eggs, so that's kind of what it looks like to me, and it's doing alright right now. Next up we have Bombastic Egg of Annihilation. This one's pretty cool. It has the bombastic texture, which is a pretty popular texture. It's doing pretty well. Once again, this is one of the harder ones to get. You needed to get to a high place in order to actually get this one, so definitely not the easiest to get, but I think it looks pretty nice. It's definitely a pretty fun looking egg, and it can definitely match well with different bombastic items. Next up over here we have One Mud Egg of OMG. This one is currently the 3rd most expensive, and it's a pretty rare one. It did spawn very rarely in a game, and you had to get it when it was actually a normal size because it typically spawned pretty big, so you had to wait for it to shrink down. It looks pretty cool. It has the Windwood texture on it, which is another pretty popular texture on Roblox. Next up over here we have Legendary Egg of Gygax. This one obviously doesn't really look like an egg, it looks like the dice they roll, so that makes it pretty unique, and in order to get this one you had to spawn and roll 20, so that's pretty rare. I mean, there are many sides to this, so it's pretty unlikely they would get 20, but if it did land on the 20 right over here, you were able to touch it and collect it. And this is probably one of the rarest ones of the egg hunt. It's doing pretty well, almost 20,000 Robux, so definitely pretty expensive now. But yeah, this was a pretty cool one to get if you're able to get it. And lastly over here, the obtainable ones at that time was the Cracked Egg of Pwnage. In order to get this one, you had to kill a player that was wearing the bunny ears of Caprice item, which was a pretty expensive item, which is why this one was pretty rare. And it looks pretty cool. It's a cracked egg, which we don't see much of either. And also for this being the first egg hunt, they had a pretty creative idea like this, so that's pretty fun. It's doing around the same as the Gygax one is, just a little bit less, but it still looks pretty nice. It's definitely pretty difficult. Now, there were actually 3 eggs that were labeled as troll eggs by Shedletsky in this egg hunt, and you were not able to collect them at that point. 2 of the 3 eggs became obtainable at a later point, like this one right over here, Tiny Egg of Non-Existence. This one was the most recent one to become available. It became available during the Metaverse Champions event last year, so that was a pretty fun thing to see this return. And when you wear it, you can't really see it because it is really small. You can only see it if you have headless or some other head that allows you to see it, but it's a pretty cool one to see return during the recent event. Unfortunately, this one and the other one that was not used are not limited, so you can't get them if you did not get them during the event. Maybe they'll become limited at some other point. Right over here, this is the second one to become available at a later event. This was available once again during the Rotris event as like the grand prize for getting all 3 different items available from that event, and it's basically just an egg with a blue steel texture, which is another popular texture that Roblox tends to use on a lot of different items. This one's doing okay. It hasn't been doing that well before this, but it actually did get quite a big spike, so that's probably helping out the pricing right now, but it's still nice if you're able to get it from that Rotris event. And lastly, over here we have the Wikipedian Egg of Alien Mind Control. This one was actually never obtainable, so currently there's no owners of it, but maybe like the non-existent egg, you'll be able to see this turn as a part of an event in the future as an obtainable egg, which I think would be a really fun way of still remembering the egg hunt tradition, even though there's no more new egg hunts from Roblox specifically. Yeah, that was the Egg Hunt 2008 event. I wasn't actually able to participate in the event, but just looking back, it looks like a pretty fun thing to see eggs just drop in any game. That would have been something fun to experience if you were there at the time. So yeah, if you have any other suggestions for what I can do for the Catalog Flashback series, please let me know in the comment section. I really enjoyed looking back at what Roblox was in the past, and this is definitely one of my favorite series that I've done so far. So once again, if you have any suggestions, please let me know in the comment section, and I will work on them soon. Yeah, that is pretty much it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!